this is something I really wanted to talk about with you, Dave. This is a question I got on email last week, and the person asked, because this is related to Parks on the Air. What types of experiences have you had where average citizens, as in non-hams, come up to you and ask what you're doing? How do you react to your explanation? Have you ever had park rangers or law enforcement called to your location? If so, how do you handle that? And he was wondering if this would be a video topic in the future. So I think this is kind of a perfect conversation that would for the live stream, though. We could kind of talk about that. And his funny thing is that as I got that message, I just had an interaction with a person while I was activating, and it was in my last video, the one that I released last Sunday when we were up on Lake Superior. I was sitting on the beach. I wasn't even on the air yet, and they asked me what I was doing. And when I usually get those kind of questions, I'm really kind of I don't get into big detail what I'm doing, because I know that I can't find my notes here. I know that a lot of the stuff is just going to make their eyes glaze over and go over their heads. So I typically try to keep it as simple and as low key as possible. And I say, the first thing I say is it's ham radio. And usually that's enough to kind of resonate with them, because they may have some type of experience or knowledge of ham radio. And I'll say, I'm talking to people all over the U.S. or something like that, and I'll point out, there's my antenna. Here's my transceiver, and sort of talk about that a little bit. But I don't go into the weeds with like what POTA is, Parks on the Air, or emergency communications, or anything like that. I just say, I'm just out here having fun talking to people across the U.S. And that's usually, for 90% of the time, that satisfies their interest.
Yeah. For me, it's been almost 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I, unless I'm putting up like my, sometimes if I put on my link dipole with that big telescopic mast, I got it's not really big. It's about a 22 or 25 foot mast. When you start popping that up in the campground, sometimes people will notice, because they're just walking around looking at campsites, and yours looks kind of strange with that. Is that a flagpole, or what do you, and then you point out the wires that they hadn't even noticed, because all they saw was your support pole. If you have the right idea, though, you just say, hey, this is ham radio. Okay, then you can tell immediately by their response to that statement where this is going to go.
Yeah.
If their eyes glaze over, like, I have no idea what you're talking about, then you keep it really simple and just say, well, it's just a hobby of mine. I just have fun.
Yep.
Good enough. The firewood store is down this road. Have a nice. If they say, oh yeah, I've heard of that. My grandpa used to be a ham radio.
I got an uncle that does that.
Yeah. Then you can go. Then you kind of latch onto that and say, yeah. I've been doing it almost as long as your grandpa did. And whatever. And so you be friendly, and you just feed them as much as they're interested in. You have to treat them like my 6-year-old grandson. He's interested for a while, but eventually that's enough, and now we have a different subject. So
Yep. It's not their jam, but they want to know, they're curious on what's going on. So
and when you start talking geography, they're usually fascinated by that.
Yeah.
Like you're talking to a guy in California, really? Spain? Oh, you got to be kidding me. Yeah. So they like that. So but I've never had an issue with like a policeman or a park ranger or anybody like that. I mean, they might drive by and maybe stop and look. It seems to me I did have a guy once ask me, what exactly I was going to do, but not in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody ever told me you have to take that down, or you have to leave, or you can't do this.
I've never had that issue either. I've never had a run-in with either rangers or law enforcement, but I try to keep a small footprint. If I'm in a day use area, I keep my footprint as small as possible, within a couple parking spaces or in a back corner or something, where, because I don't really look for that foot traffic. I want to try to avoid that. So I don't want people walking through my my radials or anything, or getting clotheslined by an antenna. So
I think keeping your footprint small and don't create hazards. Don't create a physical hazard. Radials laying on the ground, they're problems. Kids running through, they trip. The dog's running around, it gets tangled up in it. I try to stay away from these radials. And likewise, you don't want a wire that's like coming down from a tree branch about neck level, where somebody's going to get clotheslined when they walk underneath it. Just use some common sense, and you'll be fine. Once in a while you hear about people getting in these confrontations, and I don't, I'm approaching 400 activations, so it isn't like I've only been out there 10 times, and I don't think it's a problem, as long as you are sensible.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And I think, like I said, I haven't had a law enforcement experience with Parks on the Air, but I know in past experiences with working with law enforcement, the easiest way to kind of deal with them is that if you're friendly and you make eye contact and don't talk too much, to let them do the talking. Usually, you're gonna fare the best. Because they're looking for you to spill the beans. So it's now you tell me what you're doing here. You tell me what you see, and and that usually works. In other experiences that I've had. It's.
I kind of like it when another camper in the campground takes an interest and asks a question. I'm cool with that.
I had that happen once. I did a late shift, and I guess it was getting close to quiet hours, and I must have been making a lot of noise, because the next day, the guy comes into the campsite, and he starts from across the way, and he asks me, "Are you a ham radio operator?" And I says, "Yeah." He says, "Can I?" I said, "Was I making too much noise last night?" And he says, "Oh, no, not at all. But can I bring my kids over and you can show them what you do? Because we homeschool, and I think this is something they should really see." So he brought his kids over, and I gave a little 3-minute spiel on ham radio. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, I think that happened to us at Black River Falls, didn't it? That guy in his Jason site, he brought his son over, and next thing you know, we're over at their campsite making marshmallows.
We're roasting marshmallows because we were having so much fun. Robert says he's only had 2 instances with park rangers that were quick. One just reminding me of the park hours, and the other was interested in how far I was making it. That's a good interaction. I like to interactions like that are what you want to be operating and conducting yourself in a way that you get you get interactions like that. So it's that's the way to do it. KB9VBR antennas are simple, effective, and affordable VHF and UHF antennas for amateur radio, MERS, public safety, and GMRS. Made in the USA with quality parts. Get yours online at jpole-antenna.com.